Yes guys, I'm back with the second part of my The Films of Larry Clark video, where I'll take a look at 4 more of his movies, or films. If you haven't already, check out the first part where I take a look at some pretty cool, pretty controversial movies. But none of them as controversial as the one that we're going to take a look at now, Ken Park. In a way, it's like the ultimate Larry Clark movie, but to me that doesn't mean that it is his best work. But hey, at least it's controversial enough to not have been given an official release in the United States. Fortunately, here in the Netherlands, we don't care too much about that stuff. We just put a teenage boy eating out an adult woman on the cover. Although, according to Larry Clark, it's not even a matter of censorship, it's really just a copyright issue. But then again, that doesn't sound as cool, so, yeah, let's just take a look. Written once again by Harmony Korine and Larry Clark, and co-directed with Ed Lachman, a cinematographer mostly active in the independent film circuit. Ken Park is, again, more in the style of Kids, with no traditional storyline, just a day, or well, maybe a couple of days, in the life of some troubled teenagers in a small Californian city. But this time with a bigger focus on the relationship they have with their parents. Because, you know, one of the reactions to Kids was, hey, where are the parents? So we follow 4 stories basically. One guy has a sexual relationship with his girlfriend's mother. Another guy has a fucked up alcoholic father who's disappointed in him and disproves his lifestyle. One girl is exploring her sexuality but lives with her very conservative religious father. And finally, one guy, he's just fucked up. He's an asshole who lives with his grandparents and mistreats them.
How about this? Get the fuck out of my room, you fucking bitch! Jesus fucking Christ, Grandma, get out!
And, well, that's nice and all, but what about the controversy? Well, it's really mostly just the graphic depiction of sexual activity. Perhaps most notably the asshole guy who masturbates while suffocating himself. And it's all like boom, like on screen, including him ejaculating. And while it's debatable whether or not the sex is simulated, especially during the final scene, they are all once again supposed to be at least 18 years of age. Although I can't really find any information about this kid, who coincidentally looks the youngest out of all. So, whenever this movie is brought up, it's almost always immediately to the discussion about, you know, whether or not this movie is just porn. I always say no, because really, if we take this definition and focus on the intended to stimulate sexual excitement, it's really simple if Larry Clark just didn't intend this movie to stimulate sexual excitement. And I'm not trying to defend or justify or, you know, explain why he did show us these scenes. It's just, I don't think it's as simple as just denouncing this movie as porn. Also doesn't mean it's a perfect work of art. I mean, compared to Kids, Larry Clark here, he really took the whole dysfunctional family, the troubled kids, and the sexual activity, he took it like a little too far in this one. You know, as in, it's not all that relatable anymore. I mean, in Kids, it was already debatable whether or not teenagers actually like really behaved like that. Here, it's even more unlikely. I have a little spoiler coming up here, so please skip to here in order to avoid them. Okay? Okay. So, eventually later in the movie, it goes a little too over the top in my opinion with 3 out of the 4 stories. The girl is forced into some weird marriage with her father. The alcoholic dad one day comes home drunk as shit and tries to perform oral sex on his sleeping son. And best of all, the asshole guy, he kills his grandparents. Because they cheated during Scrabble. It's all really just a little too much. So while I didn't enjoy this one as much as his previous movies, it's still not too bad. There's something interesting to be found in each of the 4 stories. Some are better than others. I thought the one with the alcoholic father was pretty good actually. So yeah, and it's never really boring. Some of the performances are pretty good. It's just, in my opinion, ultimately just a little pointless. Definitely more so than Kids. So yeah, and you know, I could go on and on and on about this movie, really, because there's enough to discuss about. It is quite interesting. But, you know, I don't really have that much time for all of that in this video. Like I said earlier, I'm really not here to defend the guy, but his justification, if you will, for why he does depict the stuff in the way he does, it is actually quite interesting, well, at least like quite understandable.
But as an artist, you know, I don't think in those terms. I mean, I come from the art world, so you know, you make work and you show work, and in the art world it's fine. But this is different, and you know, when you're making film, you're reaching such a bigger audience and you're reaching the public, and there's all these rules. But as an artist, I don't think in terms of rules. I never think about what you can't do, you know, what you're not supposed to do. I mean, I just, you know, do it. You know, this is a...
You see, he's an artist. Not the greatest little bridge to the next movie, because this is just pure trash. Teenage Caveman. Really, the most non-Larry Clark movie on the whole list. This movie was part of a creature feature series by Cinemax, where a couple directors would very loosely remake old sci-fi and horror movies produced by the legendary American International Pictures back in the 1950s. Yeah, I think I'm gonna be a little bit short about this one, okay? Yeah. So, set in a post-apocalyptic world, we follow a tribe that's, well, they're living like they're in the prehistoric ages, where everything related to the old world, which is basically life as we know it, all of that is a sin, including sex and procreation. So these kids are sick and tired of all of that, and then they try to escape, and then after being hit by a storm, they're rescued by these two, who live in a solar-powered bio-facility, I guess, and live life like in the old world. But are they really as good as they seem? The story had a lot of potential, but it's also kitschy and cheesy. The set and the costume design, and you know, like the whole look and feel, like, oh, it's a post-apocalyptic world, let's just throw in a bluish color shading. And what the hell is going on with the colors here? The acting, it's pretty bad. We actually get to see two of the kids from Ken Park. That's cool, I guess, but they're definitely better at acting natural than actually following a script.
It was an accident. Sun got in my eyes. Besides, it was an asshole. Fuck him.
So, besides all of that, we really only get to see a lot of nudity and crappy gore effects. Or both. Boom! Well, that was a little cool, I guess. But really, so the kids, for the first time ever, they experienced alcohol and drugs and sex. And obviously they love that stuff, so obviously that's all they want to do. So obviously that's all we get to see. In that sense, it's still, you know, like it's still a Larry Clark movie. But whereas his other movies often have at least a bit of an artsy side to it, this is just pure schlock. And, you know, well, there's nothing really wrong with that. I mean, the series this movie was part of is based on movies produced by American International Pictures, a production company specialized in making crappy B-movies. But, I don't know, here it just doesn't really work for me. Like I said, it had cool ideas, you know, like these kids discovering the modern world for the first time. But it's all mostly wasted by a poor production, crappy acting, and, you know, just overall silliness. Maybe I make it out to be worse than it actually is. I mean, it's watchable. It's just, I don't know, it doesn't really belong in the filmography of Larry Clark. It's really like the Outcast, but you know, he still directed it, so I guess I just had to mention it. But yeah, it's yeah, that wasn't great. Shall we just move on? I think that's a good idea. Because next up we have Wassup Rockers. Oh, and guess what? It's about skateboarding teenagers. It's also probably the most mainstream PG movie that Larry Clark wrote and directed. But hey, that's not a bad thing, I guess, so let's just take a look. So, we follow a group of Latino skateboarding teenagers between the age of, what 13 and 17, who live in South Central LA. Or as this one kid keeps calling it.
We're from the ghetto.
Yeah, they're dressed in, you know, a little like punk rock, and that's not cool in South Central. Because according to this movie, everybody there is hip hop and they don't like rockers.
What's up, rockers?
How the movie starts out, it really feels like yet another kids movie, just 10 years later. These guys, they aren't actors, just skaters pulled from the street. They're honestly just playing themselves. There's a lot of, you know, just talking, a lot about sex again.
And then I got on top of her, and then I tried putting it in like for half an hour. I couldn't find the hole.
And there's some scenes where they are just skateboarding. I never mind it. I mean, I love skateboarding. Although we see more bills than actual tricks that they land. But then again, hey, adds to the realism, right? There is some story going on where the kids take the bus to Beverly Hills, you know, to go skating there. And where they run into these two girls with whom they eventually meet up at their house. The house of the girls. Some of the themes in this movie are, you know, like different racial groups and social classes. But sometimes it's so obvious.
Hey, what the fuck is this? That's my ball, you Mexican pants wearing booty hugging bitch. I'm gonna tell my brother he gonna fuck you up.
I'm Salvadorian.
it's like, it's very stereotypical, you know? And when they meet the white upper class Beverly Hills girls, those guys that are with them, they're so typical.
Hey, was I talking to you fucking Mexican?
I'm Guatemalan.
And you know, like on the one hand, it's kinda interesting when they're talking, you know, like the clash of the classes. But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, we get it. He is poor, she is rich. And perhaps all of this is done on purpose, you know, to exaggerate it all a little bit. Although I can't really think of a reason why. You know, like if Larry Clark was trying to get a serious message across about races and classes, then I don't think that this was the best way to do so. Because really, all it does is make it a little more like ridiculous or like comedic. But then again, it also didn't really bother me. And I quite enjoyed this movie, up till the point where they start fighting with the white kids. Honestly, from here on out, it all just becomes a little ridiculous and goofy and, I don't know, very much against the realism of the first part of the movie. You know, where we see that Larry Clark stamp. Although for a Larry Clark movie, this one is rather PG. You know, like there's no sex, no nudity, no drugs. Like when one of the kids is with one of the white girls, I was like, okay, so now he's gonna bang her, right? But really, they only end up talking for 7 minutes straight. Nothing wrong with that though, and you know, after Ken Park, maybe he just had to play it a little safe for once, you know, if he still wanted to find investors in the future. So, besides the obvious stereotyping, there were a few other things that seemed silly, like how they leave behind a friend and not even really bring it up anymore at all. Yeah, but in general, you know, I thought it was okay. Not his best work though, because I do believe that his strength lies in, you know, like the gritty realism. And this was really just more a glorified, more like a dumbed down version of that. You know, like the cops are racist, the white people are rich, the Latinos are poor, the black people are mean. It's, you know, it's... But on its own, like if you do not take in consideration his other work, it's not bad. So, like I said in the first part, I was in my late teens when I discovered the movies of Larry Clark, which means that after Wassup, Rockers, you know, there was nothing else. That was the last movie he did. Since then, he did make some more stuff, and since then I did see most of that work. He directed a segment/short film for Districted, which is a series of shorts where filmmakers and artists walk the fine line between pornography and art. Basically, it's just contemporary porn art, if you will. Larry Clark's segment, Impaled, is a short documentary that sort of explores the effect of widely available porn on young men and their idea of sex. It's actually a little interesting. You have all these, you know, like more or less everyday guys, and then they talk about porn and sex, and then they pick one of those guys and he gets to talk to a lot of actual porn actresses. And it's funny, it's awkward, and you know, and then in the end he gets to pick one of the girls to have a hardcore porn scene with. Impaled. Such a dirty name when you think of it. That was 2006. In 2009, he was one of the 42 filmmakers that made a small segment for the movie 42 One Dream Rush. Or just One Dream Rush. A collection of clips about dreams. Among him were Harmony Korine, Gaspar Noé, Abel Ferrara, James Franco, David Lynch, and many others I'd never heard about. And it's really just that. You know, it's like listening to random people telling you about their dreams. It's not really interesting. Larry Clark's segment is, you know, just as forgettable as almost all of them. And then in 2012, he finally made his big comeback with a new feature-length movie, Marfa Girl. And you know, it had been 7 years since his last feature, Wassup, Rockers. So, it's exciting, you know? Yeah, let's take a look. So, Marfa is a small Texan town, and surprise, surprise, we start with some teenage skaters smoking weed. Sounds familiar? This movie follows Adam, a 16-year-old directionless teenager that just goes about life, you know? Like Kids and Kent Park and Wassup Rockers to a certain degree, it doesn't follow a traditional narrative. It really just paints a picture of life in a small, boring town. It touches a few subjects or themes, if you will, like sexual freedom and racial profiling. You know, it's a Larry Clark movie. He really just does whatever he wants. It's really hard to say anything new about this one. Again, it's mostly non-actors that more or less play themselves. And like in most of Larry Clark movies, this makes for realistic, organic conversations.
Well, my dad's dad was what they call a huesero. Hueso in Spanish means bone.
Wassup?
So, hueso. So,
But at the same time, forced delivery when the script must actually be strictly followed.
I have to send you to the principal, and this time he's going to give you a paddling.
And yes, there is sex and nudity, quite graphic at times actually. But nothing too mind-blowing if you're used to his work by now. During some of the free dialogue scenes, it gets a little boring. And I got quite annoyed by this white border patrol guy that's really a huge asshole.
You got a hot little girlfriend. I'd lay her on the table, I'd spread her legs, I'd get my whole face down in there.
The titular Marfa girl can be a little annoying as well during some parts. She's new in town and she's an artist that's now doing work in Marfa and who thinks very freely about sex and whatnot. Like I said, it's really hard to say anything new about this one. It's a Larry Clark movie. And if you don't like his work, then you're probably not gonna appreciate this one either. But if you are open to his movies and you like his non-plot driven movies, yeah, you should definitely give it a shot. Because really, I do think he did a fantastic job at portraying life in this small, not very interesting, sleepy little town, where everybody knows each other and stuff. And the cinematography really helps to establish this, like in the location. It gives you a nice impression. You get to know some of the characters a bit. They seem more or less realistic, like real people. In that way, it's a bit like Linklater's Slacker, but then, not funny. Initially, after watching it, I wasn't too impressed, and I still don't really care for the ending, but it's actually already starting to grow on me. So yeah, I think I'll definitely have to rewatch this one day, because I think I kinda liked it. Marfa girl. And Larry Clark, right? I mean, I still think he's a fascinating, interesting filmmaker. His whole approach against the mainstream cinema, like censorship and ratings, it's actually quite interesting. He released Marfa Girl online on his own website because he didn't want to go through a whole song and dance with the ratings and stuff. I mean, gotta respect that. His latest movie, The Smell of Us, recently did some festivals and is now released in France, like earlier this year. Very limited, I presume. It's a completely French production about, you've guessed it, skateboarders. And that wraps up this two-part video about the films of Larry Clark. I could go on and on about the guy as a filmmaker, as an artist, but in these videos I really just wanted to focus on his movies. And I really hope I did an okay job trying to explain why I think that his movies are quite something else. There's probably so much that I forgot to mention that I did want to mention, but these videos are as long as they are, so if any of this piqued your interest, just go online and look up more reviews, interviews with the guys. There's interesting stuff. Thanks for watching and have a nice day. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video or the stuff on my channel in general, please consider supporting all of that by going over to patreon.com/horriblereviews. There's a short video on that page, just check it out, that will explain everything. By doing so, it'll make it easier for me to make more videos and, crank up the quality a little bit. You see the list of people over there? They are already supporting and, that's awesome. Thank you guys. If not, doesn't matter, nothing will change. I mean, I'll still try to make as many videos as possible. So thank you and see you next time.